There we go, action.
All right, we're on.
You're on.
I'm on. I'm gonna start flipping that thing around.
I should do that.
Speaker point of view, right here.
I should just kind of do that.
Over there, all y'all
pan
finish the
around
back of my
everybody.
head.
There you go.
That's not funny.
Focus on whoever's speaking.
Kathy's
That's
not here for
right.
that.
You're Rachel. Zoom in.
No
No, you
pressure.
don't. Your attendance is gonna be down one.
Or 2 or 3.
Or there, yeah. Where is everybody? Well, good morning. I hope everybody had a good week. And we had fun yesterday at that banquet. It was pretty interesting. Learned some stuff that I can't use in the North Country.
I know, he kept saying that.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys start off with some praises, some gratitude thing.
Gosh, nobody has anything to praise today, huh?
Nobody's awake.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank God for letting me wake up this morning.
Yeah.
There we go.
Today's Calvin
Gets the
Day.
ball rolling.
Yes, and also
Calvin.
I want to thank God for introducing me to play golf. Okay, because it's something I never thought I'd ever play, and I have been for the last year or so. I've only played like 4 or 5 times. But I have learned that I don't care if I win or lose. I just like to play. I enjoy it. And it's like anything else in life. You know, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. I enjoy playing.
Yeah.
And I like playing with the judge, which I happened to beat the last time we played.
My gosh.
It's not that I, like winner, But I played this week with my
Make sure you don't go
future son-in-law, and he beat me.
Yeah.
I'll get a ticket, so you have to go.
So I'm glad that he did, because we both enjoyed it together. It was dark time to get, we couldn't even find our balls.
I think it was orange for Alexa once.
But it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It was fun, and I want to thank God for that.
Just don't get a ticket in his jurisdiction, because
Well, he's already warned me that, enjoy it while I can.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Be careful when you're in his town, man, because you could be in trouble.
That's funny.
I'm praising.
I beat the judge.
I'm praising God for the cooler temps.
Yes.
Fall weather coming ahead of official fall.
I like the smell of fall.
Yes.
Yes.
It has a
Something
smell.
about it.
It's just a cool, crisp air. Summer has a great smell too. There's honeysuckle when you're driving around.
Yeah.
I was telling Brenda, Sarah and I went and looked at the house. Now, she thought it was okay. I wasn't really a fan of it, but I bit my tongue and I thought, if she's happy with it. We went to the bank and we qualified. And the banker started opening Sarah's eyes to, okay, now, have you taken into consideration the property tax, the village tax, the school tax, the this tax, and it's like, Sarah had never heard of so many taxes, and truthfully, neither had I. And by the time you added all the taxes up, you were paying more in taxes than you were in the mortgage.
Right.
And Sarah just kind of looked at me and she said, so what do you think? I said, well, what do you think? You're the one with the job,
Right.
And she said, I don't think we're going to bid on it. Thank you, Lord. Because on the way in to meet her at the bank, I said, okay, Lord, if this is going to be okay with you, then smooth the way. If it's not, open the eyes. And he did. I mean, a
Good.
big stop sign.
Yeah.
Taxes are ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a lot that comes in, so you don't realize. You just look at the asking price of the home, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You can put it in a little mortgage estimator, and
See,
it'll
when
spit
you
out
run
a
it on
number.
the realtor.com, it says estimated monthly, and it
Right.
says down below, this is the mortgage, this is the property tax, but it doesn't say, and this is the school tax, and this is the, it doesn't go into the rest of the taxes.
Right.
And she's not seeing that. And by the time you add all of it in, you know, I think that's a little bit, I don't know. I think they should disclose it all,
Yes.
you know?
A little more reasonable expectations, so you're not hit in the face with it when you go.
Yeah.
No. That's good. At least it kind of put the brakes on it and saved her from maybe some really big trouble later. Any other praises?
Well, as I shared last week, yesterday my bike came.
Oh.
So now I have to learn how to ride it.
Just in time for snow to fly.
Yeah, there you go.
You'll get it, don't worry.
You know.
Any others?
Just continued praises for my healing. I see the doctor this week too for follow-up, so probably do x-rays and make sure everything is as it should be. Good. Getting there.
Is it feeling good?
I mean, there's still like, I went shopping the other day and that was a mistake. It was just too much, you know, a lot of pain in the knee and everything, but gotta take it a little
You know, you
easier.
want to do it,
Yeah,
but you got to do it
Yeah.
in increments.
yeah. And pace myself.
Yeah. Well, prayer requests. You got some littles that are
Yeah. Baby Ellis is,
got the crud.
Yeah. Yep, he's had a rough time.
Yeah.
But all the kids, the minute they go back to school, I
Yeah.
swear,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
constant running noses. and
Sit in a petri
something.
dish for 8 hours.
Right?
Right.
I know. So.
The stuff I can bring home today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Finley's already missed a day of school.
Yeah.
So it's passing around.
Mhm.
Continue our prayers for Linda and the family.
Yeah, definitely.
She's just about the same, no change? No change.
I'm not really sure what it is. I don't know if any of you guys remember Brenda Simpson that came here. She wrote on my, because she wrote a comment on my Facebook today, saying pray that things work out and I can get back home to my cat.
She had a.
So I'm thinking she's in the hospital or something
No,
right
it's not
now.
Brenda. Was it Bonnie? Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Had the toe ring.
Oh.
Okay.
No.
So I don't know about.
So I'm thinking she's in, I'm presuming that she's in the hospital or something. So whatever is going on with Brenda, let's just pray that she is able to get back home.
Yeah.
Any others?
Praying for Santana and Franco to find a place.
Find a place, yeah. For your
My
brother's
brother's-
sake.
Yeah, my brother's apartment's kind of overloaded right now.
All right, well, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you, as Cal always reminds us, for opening our eyes and waking us up and letting us be here. I thank you for all my friends gathered around the table, and thank you for this church family and the opportunity that we have to come together and share and grow together. You know, it's our vision as a church is to be a place where everyone can come and worship and to grow in relationship with you and with one another. And so I thank you for enabling us to do that, Lord. I just ask that your Spirit be with us today in our discussion. Lord, lift up and guide Pastor as he shares his word with us later in the service. And let us all just have a blessed day. And of course, we lift up those who are unwell and struggling. I think of the Littles and the Bono family and many as we get back into the school year and kids are sharing everything. Or just keep them safe and let things be simple and resolve quickly. Of course, we continue to raise up the Bard family and just ask for easing discomfort and worry and just a calm and peace. Lord, we all rest on the hope and the promise of our life. life with you afterward. But as you know, Lord, the world can be in our face and still cause us to tremble a bit. So we just rest them all at your feet and trust that you're going to guide them and strengthen them and fortify them. And we just continue to praise your holy name through all of these trials and tribulations, Lord, because we know that you are going to come through it and find your purpose in it. And thank you, Lord. Amen.
Hi,
So
Sylvia.
apparently,
Hey. She appeared. I
was
can
like,
hear
wow.
you. Wow.
another person
That's
there.
good. She is.
All right. So I've been told we're on the middle of 54, right? Courage to eliminate
Yes.
distractions. Man, that's a trick, huh? Eliminating distractions because they're everywhere. But I guess this is distractions from our spiritual life. So I guess we got to be a little more careful. So I'm gonna start with you, Brian?
Sure. Excuse me.
Caught you. Caught you even.
Courage to eliminate your distractions. To move forward, you need the courage to eliminate distractions by saying no to bad things and even saying no to some good things. You only want to say yes to the best things. No to the bad, no to the good, yes to the best. Warren Buffett has learned he can't focus on too many things at once. He advises making a list of the top 25 things you want to accomplish in the next few years. From this list, pick the 5 that are most important to you. Now you have 2 lists. Buffett suggests you avoid at all cost the longer one, for those items may well prevent the big things from happening. To move forward in life, we have to discover the beauty of the word no. The practice of a graceful no takes courage, but boy, is it liberating.
Gee, that's kind of hard. No is a hard word.
My
Especially-
friends and I at work used to have this thing, because 2 out of 3 of us are involved in many, community things and different things. And we'd, would say back and forth, well, did you say no? No. Did you? No. Are we going to? Sure. That kind of thing. We had that thing going back and forth, but it is hard when you're a person who serves and wants to serve to say no lots of times.
Yeah, it's
And
really
that's
easy to
where-
burn yourself out.
Yes, it is.
There's actually a book, Pastor Grace, who used to be in Watertown, now she's was it Wilmington?
I think so.
It's called Boundaries. And she had written,
Yes, she's in Wilmington.
anyways, it's a good book about setting boundaries and, focusing on the bigger stuff, the more important things.
Yeah, it's hard. You gotta definitely make an effort to
The word
prioritize.
no is like a two-way street, really.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to say no sometimes, but we also have to learn how to accept the word no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good one, Sylvia.
Yeah,
Especially from
definitely.
God.
Yeah, so especially in our prayer life, huh?
Yeah. So this is it, Boundaries. It's on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, it's not a simple thing to do,
No.
Yes.
especially if we're in that servant attitude where we're
Mhm.
like, I want to be able to do for someone or,
We got to make sure we don't overload ourselves too. So.
And also, if you're one that worries about what people will think of you if you say no.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The hardest ones to say no to are family.
Grandkids.
Yeah.
Grandchildren.
Stay over.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can see my bags under my eyes.
Yeah, family is
hard.
difficult.
It is
Yeah.
hard.
And people, you don't want to disappoint people.
Right.
There's, there's, ministry or service opportunities, but it's like, you've been going on one thing after another. You do have to have time for yourself to focus on yourself so that you're well.
Yeah. And focus on your relationship with God.
Yeah. And that whole, oxygen mask and the airplane
Yeah.
thing, you know, put your mask on first, right?
Right.
If you expend all your spiritual energy and physical energy, you have nothing left, and you won't be able to effectively minister to others. That's the other thing too. Yeah, you might be doing it, but you might be like, I'm here, I'm doing it, you know, and it's, people can tell, you're like,
Right.
oh man.
Yeah.
You have
You
to
know,
learn that it's okay to say no.
yeah, it's okay. It's not, you know, the world is not going to end if you don't, you know, bring that thing to that place, or, you know, go volunteer just this one day. Of course, he wants us to serve at every opportunity, but, you know, there's got to be a balance. I continue on the next section on a bright winter day.
My turn?
Yeah.
Yep.
On a bright winter day in California a few years ago, Greg McCune visited his wife Anna in the hospital. Even in the hospital, Anna was radiant. but she was also exhausted. It was the day after she had given birth to a couple's precious daughter, born healthy and happy at 7 pounds 3 ounces. What should have been one of the happiest, most serene days of his life was actually filled with tension. Even as Greg's beautiful new baby lay in his wife's tired arms, he was on the phone and on email with work. Feeling the pressure to go to a client meeting, Greg's colleague had written to him Friday between 1 to 2. Would be a bad time to have a baby because I need you to come in to be at this meeting.
Oh my.
Wow.
First of all, nerve.
Yeah.
Right? Excuse you?
Did you just say that?
I think this year would be a bad time for you to be a client.
Yeah.
I feel like that, you know, I don't know, for me, I think that would be an easy no, but
Yeah.
clearly it's in here, so I think we're
Yeah.
going to confront a challenge. But wow, that's yeah. I mean, I mean, I guess it speaks to that secular mindset, right, of success, this notion of being a successful person, or, you know, the American work ethic, which really, you know, you work to provide and take care, right, and you take pride in your work, but it seems like, you know, so many people just let it consume them, you know, shape their lives around their work and leave nothing in the tank at the end.
Well, that's my mother with her job.
Yeah.
My mother's 73, and her boss seems to think that it's up to her to keep this restaurant afloat.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough that she's working, and now she's got no.
Well, and I think it's compounded for people who are successful in their careers, because then, you know, they may think, hey, you know, I've got to do this, so who else is going to do it? I got to do it, you know, this is, but really.
And the work ethic of that generation, like that, you know, the
Yeah.
generation, you don't quit, you know, you keep going and, you know.
I think now it seems like there's a little bit of a trend, a few people actually realizing, I think the pandemic, I guess in one way, that kind of helped people see that, oh, wait, yeah, there's life, and then there's work, you know.
Yeah.
And there, you know, there's a difference too. People work their passion, right? If they're in that field because that's just them and that's what they want to do with their lives, and you know, go for it, you know. But yeah, I think it's easy to get consumed in the work because there's so much pressure to succeed, because you spend, you know, 3/4 of your waking day there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you don't think we take for granted the people at home, you know, the things outside of work that need your attention more, because you go home, the building's still standing, it's still there, that business will keep going. You're going to move away, they're still going to be there probably.
Kind of makes me think of Tom Brady right now.
Yeah.
Their marriage might, because he unretired, and you know his kids grew up without
What do you have
him.
left to do, man?
And his wife is
Millions and millions.
fed out.
People don't know how, some people don't know how to retire.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's their life, and they realize when they do, they can't, you know, but, yeah.
Yeah, end of the day. So yeah, okay. We'd like to continue on and find out what happens with Greg.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Instinctively, Greg knew he should be with his wife and newborn child. But when asked whether he planned to attend the meeting, he said yes. To my shame, Greg says, while my wife lay in the hospital with our hours-old baby, I went to the meeting. He was hoping the client would respect him for making that decision. But when he arrived, the look on the client's faces mirrored how Greg felt. What was he doing there? Greg said yes simply to please, and in doing so, he hurt his family, his integrity, and even the client relationship. As it turned out, exactly nothing came of the client meeting. In trying to keep everyone happy, Greg sacrificed what mattered most and learned an important lesson in the process. If you don't set priorities in your own life, someone else will. In her book, Learning How to Say No When You Usually Say Yes, Marta's Manres advised her readers that it's all right to say no to lesser things to have room for the best things. Most of us say yes more than we should because we were taught to be available or because we don't want to disappoint others or challenge authority. Maybe we feel guilty or we don't want to damage a relationship. As a result, we're constantly overcommitted and the greater things are left behind. Manres suggests several ways to say no. The first is simply no. That's a complete sentence, but if you want to be gentler about it, try statements like, I'm sorry, but I simply can't at this time. I have a personal policy. It doesn't look like I'll be able to, but if anything changes, I'll let you know. It looks like I'm going to have to pass this time. I just can't fit it into my schedule. That is such a good cause, but I'm already supporting other good causes. No, thank you. It's hard for you, it's hard for me too, but we must have the courage to eliminate distractions if we're going to make forward progress. Jesus often said to others so that he could say yes to his Father. In Matthew 16, the Pharisees and the Sadducees came to Jesus asking him for a sign. He said no. He gave them a blunt little sermon instead and left them and went away. Matthew 16, 1-4. In Mark 1:38, Peter asked Jesus to return to Capernaum, where everyone wanted to hear him. But Jesus said, let us go into the next towns that I may preach there also. Because for this purpose I have come forth. I can't do everything, but we can always do our Father's will. We can fulfill his design for our days.
I'm going to share that passage since I don't. I know. So Matthew 16, 1-4 in NIV, it says, the Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. He replied, when evening comes, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, today will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation looks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. Jesus then left them and went away. That's an odd illustration, but I mean, I guess he's just telling them no, but I think that more to the point that they were not going to be given a sign.
Yeah.
But I mean, often, Jesus, there are several passages where it says, people were pressing around and Jesus withdrew to pray.
Mm-hmm.
So he's telling them no. They want his attention. They want him to heal and minister and all this stuff. He says, no, I have to be with my Father. I have to have time of quiet and peace. And that's okay. If it's okay for the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, then it's okay for us.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, he's, we believe he was fully human and fully God. And so he had the capacity to do the all day, all night, sun up, sundown, without an issue, but he didn't. He took time to be quiet, took time for solitude and prayer, and he told people, no, it's not going to happen. Yeah, that was an odd illustration. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, I heard a mom once tell her child, he was begging for something in the store, and she said, "What part of no don't you understand, the N or the O?"
I've been on the receiving end of that a few times.
Yeah,
You having trouble with your English?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, and that, you know, being concerned about the relation, like, you know, damaging the relationship. I mean, that might be suggestive to you if you're being deliberate and thinking about it. Like, what is that saying about that relationship? Like, is it really strong enough? You know, that connection genuine enough for you to be able to be honest and say, you know what, I'm going to do that. And you would expect that they'd be like, okay, I understand. But
I don't know, I almost feel like he was writing this about me. It's kind of, I'm serious, because I'm one of these people that does not know how to say no. And then when I do, I'm just riddled with guilt that I didn't say. And it's quite often that I'm like, no, I'm just going to change my mind. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it anyway because I can't say no. I'll be honest, I cannot. I had the worst time with that one.
your nose broken. I don't know if anybody's, I know, pop
and then
culture, film
sometimes you're mad at
references.
yourself because you can't say no.
Yeah, I should have said no.
Yeah.
Why didn't I say no?
Yeah, because afterwards it really wasn't worth it.
I think,
Yeah.
in my experience, even though I still struggle with it, especially for the family, but as you, I guess, go before the Lord and just ask for His wisdom
Mhm.
and help.
Yeah.
Because it's like, Lord, I know I want to do all these things, but I can't. I know physically and emotionally I can't do it all.
Yeah.
So help me to know, like each morning, okay, Lord, what is it you would have me to do today?
Mhm.
I want to serve you, but what's most important kind of
Right.
thing. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but
Yeah,
I really try to do that, Lord.
it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Because we want to, there's, you know,
Yeah.
we're all human. There's a part of us that wants to please others and help
Mhm.
others.
Right.
I'd say that's a key thing, like it's people pleasing. Being a people pleasing person is
Right.
not a good thing always.
Well, we're taught to be selfless too as Christians, not
Yeah.
selfish, so
Yeah.
Right.
establishing that line where it becomes, well, that you're doing it as service to the Lord, as you're doing, or if you're doing it just to hear the praises of
Right.
others,
Yeah,
you know.
right, yeah. And I'm sure that line can shift on you sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can go along, especially with something you've been doing, and then it starts to get more and more and more, and it can shift. You know, you may have started off as a genuine, pure service, you know, doing this
Right.
here, and then maybe you have some success. Maybe your ministry starts to take off a little bit, and then it becomes your ministry.
You're doing it,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
you're doing it because you want to hear the praises of the people.
Right,
You're not
yeah.
doing it because you want to have
Right.
the praises of the Lord.
Yeah. So if you're able to recognize that, then that could be your, you know, your trigger for the no. You're like, oh.
Well, it's kind of like too when, in the Bible, when it talks about prayer, go into a closet by yourself and pray, you know, that kind of
Right.
thing, instead of, and don't go on and on.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, like it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
babble or, I can't remember the exact verse it is, but, you know, God wants your one-on-one time.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to withdraw.
Yeah.
And when you do the service, I try to remember it's for God, not for my own pleasure. I'm doing it for Him.
Mhm.
And sometimes I feel like, there's so many needs. You know, I want to help everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm only one person and I can't do it all.
Yeah.
So, okay, God,
You go.
help me pick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So, and sometimes it's just praying. That's all you can do is pray, you know?
And there's nothing wrong with, you know, writing out your list.
Yeah.
Pray over your list. You know, you're bringing something that for wisdom, right? You're asking God, like, hey, help me out, man. I don't know what to do. It is. It's challenging. You know, you want the ministries to succeed. You want people to be loved, and you know, so sometimes it can take over and leave you empty. Sometimes it forces you to leave a job early and forfeit your retirement because it's too much. All right. Let's see. We got plenty of time. I'm going to start the next section. Commit to what's best.
Commit to what's best. Let me sum up where we've been in this chapter. When you get stuck, find some traction to give you a forward momentum. God doesn't want you spinning your wheels. Once you're moving, you need clarity to know the direction to move in. And Jesus provided that by telling you to love God, love those around you, and love yourself. Armed with the clarity, you need the courage to say no to some things so you can say yes to the best things. And finally, you need the consistency to practice what's best. Proverbs 23:17 says, "But be zealous for the fear of the Lord all the day." Paul said that we are to be his own special people, zealous for good works, Titus 2:14. When you do what I've suggested in this chapter, you'll place yourself in the path God had promised to bless. Even when things appear discouraging, keep pressing ahead, trusting God to make a way. Stay committed to what's best, for the Lord takes things from there and works wonders.
He certainly does. You got to give control back to Him. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens in our ministry efforts where it's like feel like we're spinning our wheels. We just can't get traction on anything. It's like, gosh, nobody's coming, or we haven't been able to bless anybody in this compassionate ministry, or whatever. I mean, like us, we're a small church. And I think we do a pretty good job of reaching out within the constraints of what our gifts and abilities are in this small group.
Leonard mentioned when we were praying about this weekend, that it's not really about the numbers. It's about if one person hears something and the seed is planted,
Right.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't always need to be
You don't
a
determine,
crowd.
you don't determine failure on numbers.
Right.
Like she said, if just one person gives their life to the Lord,
Yeah.
Then God
we
has
may
worked
never
through.
know that,
Right, yeah.
whether somebody did or didn't.
And that's a hard thing for
Yeah,
us to let
it
go
is.
of, like we want to see the result, right?
Yeah.
Very results-oriented people. Like, I want to see the outcome.
Yeah, how many times you sit there and pastor's got or somebody's got a deep message about, and it's, it's an invitation to come to the Lord, and you're like,
Who's going?
come on!
Can't help but look at
I know.
it. You may even have in your mind thinking about, okay, you.
Yeah. But
like, he's talking
we may
to you,
not
man.
see it. Yeah. Go over there. Come on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's just that, like,
challenging.
our family members even that we pray for, we may
Yeah.
never see them saved, but after we're gone,
yeah.
they still could.
Yeah.
I've seen evidence of that actually
Yeah.
with people in this church, from moms who prayed for their kids, and finally years down the road after they were passed, we've seen them come around, and from the prayers,
Yeah. God moves in His time. He's not necessarily giving us feedback. He's not going to come into you and say, hey, remember that thing?
Yeah.
I got it. we
Let
just
it go,
gotta, we
let it
gotta
go.
trust that
Yeah.
He's got it, and He'll work in their lives when He's ready to do so.
Yeah.
At the right time.
And that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Especially if anybody maybe has a little OCD or has a little bit of control problem,
Yeah.
like letting that go,
Or-
checking in, hey, did you do?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can take over ministries too,
Sure.
cause some problems.
Yeah.
A little bit of competitiveness. All right.
So where are we?
I entered the ministry.
Okay. I entered the ministry over 50 years ago at a startup church in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was focused. Man, I was focused. Wasn't necessarily aiming to be a spiritual success. I just didn't want to be a miserable failure.
That's fair.
Yeah, I can see that. All my friends knew I went to Fort Wayne to start a church. I wanted to prove to them and to myself that I could build a church from scratch. So I was knocking on doors every spare moment, all day Saturday and Sunday, in the afternoon and at night. I was gone all the time. I was doing the work of God. What could be better? But at this time, my wife Donna and I had 2 little children. Jan was a toddler and David was just 13 months younger. While Donna was at home with our kids, I was out on my white horse, winning people to Jesus and building the church. When I came home from dinner each day, Donna would say to me, "Are you going to be gone again tonight?" I was struggling to balance my responsibilities to my family and to the ministry. But then I'd go out and knock on some more doors, only to come home to the hurt look on my wife's face, and I thought I was doing God's will, but really, was I doing David's will? I just didn't want to fail.
Yeah. It can kind of get reversed, you know. So that the personal kind of takes it over a little bit, and it becomes a pride thing. You want to be seen as successful. I mean, nobody wants to be seen as a failure, for crying out loud. You know, like. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. I guess there are some people that like it. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but most of us, I think, on average, are not eager to, you know, be the flop. You know.
Well, and that's just that we have to understand God's definition of success versus the world's.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It's not always about material things.
Right.
Right.
Or our own satisfaction, like we discussed earlier,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like something I discussed with somebody else before, though. For a while there, it was like a big focus on all the churches everywhere. It was a focus on numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have a church full of people, but maybe those people are not being spiritually fed or they're not growing in their walk with the Lord. It's really not about that. You know, like we have a small church, but I feel like we have a small church of, you know, strong Christian people that
Strong
fairly
Christians, and it's a
healthy church.
family. You
yeah,
know, we're a
it's a
family.
strong community, and I think, to me, I think that's successful.
Yeah.
You know, that we're doing well. We're preaching His word.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're doing what He wants us to do, and sometimes that's important.
We're
It's
not
not all
tickling
about.
ears.
It's not all about the. And it's. I think that was the thing with him. His priority really was on. It was on the numbers.
Yeah, and I don't know when Dr. Jeremiah. So I mean, yeah, I'm talking about 70s, 80s, 90s,
Yeah,
right? And that's
still.
right smack in the middle of the
Yeah.
church growth,
Yeah.
where it was growth, like visible growth, like butts in
Yeah.
the seats, you know. And that's where you started getting a lot of these large churches, like Saddleback. Saddleback is a wonderful, you know, church, but they're I lost the word now, but they're service oriented, like they got to have these, you know, it's all these programs under one roof to draw people in, which is good. You get people in to hear the word, but how many of those people are being fed, truly fed? How many of those people are in a strong relationship? And it doesn't matter what congregation you go to, there are, you know, people come to church for different reasons. They're looking for different things. And some people want to be fed. They want to get from the milk to the meat. You know, they want to solidify the relationship and improve it and continue to grow. Other folks just appreciate the community and the fellowship. And still other folks show up because they think that's what they're supposed to do as good people. In case you didn't notice, that was me for a while. That's just what people do, right?
You go to church on Sunday.
And so there are a lot of different needs and desires for people attending church, and it doesn't matter which congregation it is. It's showed up in a lot of different studies and surveys. And, you know, so there's a small core percentage of people that are here in the Sunday school and prayer meetings and serving regularly. And then there's, you know, the rest who are, you know, still coming to visit and worship the Lord, but it's just different. Not one a better Christian than the other, but just people are at different places and different levels spiritually as far as what they're seeking. But real spiritual growth is the important growth factor,
Yeah.
and we're starting to get back to that.
When Joanne was reading this, I running through my mind, and this is my opinion, but I was thinking, this pastor was more, I think he was more working for his glory than he was for the Lord,
Yeah,
you know. He was
absolutely,
working-
yeah.
It was prideful.
Yeah, and he gives that illusion, right, talking about his white horse, and like, he's
Yeah.
even painting himself in
Right.
that error, that hubris, right, that I'm gonna
Yeah.
Well, and
church here, I'm gonna do it. I'm doing the Lord's work, not
Well, it's like
I'm
when
an
he said that
instrument
he
of the
didn't
Lord.
want
He's
to-
gonna work through me.
Yeah, I didn't want to look as a failure.
Right, yeah.
So it was more of a,
But he's using his own definition of failure,
Right.
not recognizing that if he's not able to establish a church where he is,
Yeah.
that's not where God wanted him to be.
right.
That's not the community that his church and his mission is supposed to be in. Yeah, so the focus became on, on what he thought he needed.
Well, and that just makes me think of all the mega churches,
and we all
It's
know
more
who
of
he
a
is.
show
We know that
than
things change.
Yeah.
We know who he is. We know that things are going to change here in the next few chapters.
Yeah. I hope so. That'd be a really weird book. All right. Who's next? Is that one day?
Right there, one day.
Oh yeah, I have your book.
One day, Donna sat me down in the kitchen and said, "Honey, I just want to tell you, I'm never going to ask you again. Are you going to be gone tonight? I've been thinking and praying about this, and the fact is, you are the priest in this family, and one day you're going to have to stand before God and give account of how you led us. If you believe God wants you to lead us by being gone all the time, then I'm not going to argue with you. This is all in your lap now. You are responsible."
Oh man.
Dang.
Good. Yeah.
Take that.
That was subtle.
Pass the ball.
Yeah. Like look,
You dribble it.
you laid it out.
Yeah.
That was a turning point in my life. I realized there are no ultimate conflicts in God's perfect will. He doesn't call a man to be both a father and a pastor in such a way that those two roles constantly war against each other. I began to pray God's priorities back into my life. Soon they became crystal clear to me. I organized them into the following 4 statements. I am a person with a responsibility before God. I am a partner with a responsibility to my wife. I am a parent with a responsibility to my kids. I'm a pastor with a responsibility to my congregation. I haven't always lived up to these 4 priorities, but whenever I find myself straying, I feel these principles pulling me back into line. That's what priorities do. My 4 children are grown now, and I have 12 grandchildren. My priority lesson that God taught me is being lived out now in the way my children are parenting my grandchildren. I see it almost every day, and I smile.
Yeah. And there's, they talk about something called role conflict, where, a lot of us wear more than one hat. We're not just one dimension of ourselves. We have a lot of different, we're a sibling, we're a parent, or whatever, child, whatever place of employment, so all those things. So you start taking on more and more roles, and then you start to conflict with one another, and then you just have to try and prioritize. But when he uses the term four priorities, originally a priority was a priority, the singular, the prime, most important. But now we've kind of expanded it to say, what's important to you in general. These, I think, are all together. The responsibility to God, wife, kids, congregation. I don't think you have to try and stack one over the other. I think they all have to work in concert. I'm not fulfilling my responsibility to God by neglecting my kids. I'm not fulfilling my responsibility to my congregation by not being a good husband. You're modeling all the time, and all of those are just different parts of the same mission.
You just have to find balance.
Just to honor God with your life. The trouble is, is not being, just having a hard time recognizing that and accepting that I don't have to place one of these above the other. And the other part of that trouble is getting those different areas, wife, kids, congregation, to recognize that they don't have to be prioritized over the other.
Right.
Yeah, finding that balance isn't easy.
And then there comes the no. Like, no, I can't do that right now. I am taking my kids to do this. Or, you know, sorry kiddo, I committed to do this. You know, but,
This all makes me think of my whole journey with, so the last time I was in grad school, I stopped because I felt God reminding me that right now, at the time, my ministry was really focusing on our homeschooling. But now that they're older, and I've been through some stuff and healed from some stuff, it's, you know, He's laid it on my heart again. Because the boys are at a point where, you know, I have the lesson plans and they just do their work. So it gives me the time that, you know. What?
let's accept math.
Oh, yeah.
No, they do pretty good. Yeah, Dad gets home. Dad needs help with his math.
Yeah, math is not my
That
strong
was
suit.
one nice thing about living in the same town with my sister. When our kids had math problems, how about if I take you over to Anne? Because she was the math teacher.
There you go.
Because we all had math issues, and I was like, Annie will explain it to you.
Yeah.
She goes, really? Oh, girl. Yes, you do.
That's good though, dude. You know, instead of struggling and slogging through because you want to be seen as the helper, okay, you say, hey, you know, somebody else is gifted
Able
greater
to
than I in
admit
this
that you,
thing.
that was not your strong point.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good
That's
thing.
good.
Great. My sister can be a little ditzy, and the kids were like, but when she explained the math to them, they grabbed a hold of it a lot quicker
Yeah.
than they did in the classroom.
Yeah.
One-on-one with them. And it was like, why didn't I see that before?
Mhm.
And it was like, bingo.
Yeah.
So yes, you have to go to Indiana's.
And that's the difference between being able to do something and being able to teach something.
Yeah.
You may have the concept yourself, but being able to articulate that concept.
Good players not always good coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
She's not always like,
Yeah, you don't always belong behind the bench. Just because you scored 1,000 goals, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
you give her directions somewhere, and she.
All right, we can probably finish up this chapter. There's just this page and a half left. Go back around the loop.
Want me to finish?
Sure.
Okay. Grab on to God's priorities. And that brings us back to our Marine. Sorry to leave this story. Well, dangling. But you know, those Marines have a motto, Semper Fi, always faithful. They're not people who easily give up. Walter Osipov was hanging by his ankle, pulled behind a plane by the cords of his parachute, which were entangled in the plane's wheels. The pilot, Harold Johnson, was running out of fuel, but he knew an emergency landing would kill Walter. Johnson descended to about 300 feet above the ground and started circling the airbase. Most people who saw the plane thought it was towing some piece of equipment, but one pilot, Lieutenant Bill Lowry, glanced up and instantly knew what was happening. Spotting a nearby Marine, John McCants, Lowry shouted, "There's a man hanging on that line." The two jumped into an SOC-1, a two-seat, open cockpit plane, and they took off without even knowing if the aircraft was fueled. Suddenly, everyone on the ground realized the nature of the emergency and every eye was transfixed. There were no radios on the planes, but Lowry hand signaled Johnson to head toward the Pacific, and the two planes rose to an altitude of 3,000 feet. The SOC-1 maneuvered beneath the large plane, and McCants stood upright in his rear cockpit seat and lunged for Osipov. Grabbing him by the waist, he pulled him across the tiny seat, but Osipov was still attached to the harness. Now both planes all the Marines were in mortal danger. Somehow, it was the grace of God, Lowry inched his plane closer and closer to the DC-2 and actually bumped it. But in the process, the propeller sliced through the remaining cords of Osipov's parachute and freed him. After flying through the air for more than half an hour dangling on a parachute, Osipov was free but not yet safe. Now the cut parachute cord became entangled in the SOC's rudder, and Lowry struggled to maintain control of the plane. But he did, and when he landed, a roaring shout came from the crowd. They just witnessed what was later called one of the most brilliant and daring rescues in naval history. And as for our hapless Marine, Walter Osbaugh, he spent 6 months in the hospital. As soon as he recovered, he went right back to work jumping out of airplanes. Good for him. You've been hanging around long enough. Grab onto the lifeline of God's priorities and move forward in his design for your life, always abounding with his momentum and with his blessing.
Wow.
And all, what I get out of this is this guy really need to flick
He's flying, but he's not jumping from.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know if I'd have been too eager to
Yeah.
open that door again.
Well, my father used to tell me, get right back on there.
Yeah, get right
Yeah.
back in. Yep.
Don't you give up. You're going to do it.
Well, priorities and saying no. So
Yeah.
maybe we can think about that and make that part of our prayers this week. You know, asking God to give us the wisdom and be able to recognize when we should be able to do that. And a good way to do it, you know, because you can also just get all gruff and grumpy and like, no, go away, no. Be graceful about it. Any comments, closing comments about the chapter, anything? No? Anything for closing prayer? Sounds good. Well, Father, thank you for this time that we've had together. Lord, we just are so blessed by the discussions that we get to have here, and I know I take a lot of it home, and just appreciate the shared wisdom and growth around the tables as we go through this week and the rest of our lives. Lord, just help us to remember to keep your priorities as our priorities, and Lord, let us be humble enough to recognize when we've started making them our own, and kind of trying to drive the bus when we should let you. Lord, help us to be strong in our service, but also be strong in our recognition of the need to back off a little bit. So strengthen our no and fortify our yes, and give us the wisdom to recognize the line in between them. Just ask that you bless this week with health and just thank you for all the many blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.